Hello everyone, welcome back to another art time lapse. This piece I shall call The Mushroom Girl. So I guess the inspiration for this piece came from Alice in Wonderland. As some of you who've been following on my art journey, you know how much I love the story of Alice in Wonderland. I don't know if so much just the storyline, but I like the whimsical and like the kind of like the creative nature of all the different characters that's within that story. So today I decided to do a piece with mushrooms, and then I want to do a more abstract watercolor girl who's having tea. I'm debating about how I should approach this. I must say with the caveat as I start that I did not have the full intention of having it look like this. In the beginning I thought I would just do some kind of mushroom, and then later on I was like, oh, I'll add a girl on top of it, and then after that I was like, I'll add some abstract line, and at the end it came out as a totally different piece than I intended. And I wanted to bring out this caveat because I think some people have the idea that I have a really grandeur idea of how the piece will look like when I first start, but to be perfectly honest, I don't really know how the piece will turn out until the very end, and sometimes I take it to a whole new direction like halfway through or like near the end of the piece when I just don't like it. And that's something that I have to be comfortable with as an artist. And I would say in the beginning I certainly was not. I really like things that were like clearly planned. I would map out how my art would look like. I would cut out like scraps of paper or like Photoshop how I imagine like the figures will interact and like curve, and now I just do a lot of things more loosely. As you can see from my style, I don't even use a pencil to sketch out where like the characters are gonna be. I just kind of go brush to paper and just get started on it. And that's something I really had to take time to get comfortable with. Part of it could also be my laziness. I would say I'm a pretty lazy person, and I try to find shortcuts whenever I can. And like these shortcuts that resulted in me being a little bit more comfortable in my artwork and not too fixated on like things having to be exactly right. And you can see that in my style of artwork is that it's very loose, very whimsical, not really like coloring within the lines or having like exactly straight lines or like really clean differentials between like different objects. They kind of all blend in a little bit, and that's kind of related to my style. So here you see that I started with the big plump red mushrooms, and now adding in like some shrubs and like some weeded plants here. I also have a hesitancy to call it weeded plants because I know that weeds is more of a definition that we give to different types of florals. Really influenced by some of the children's books that my kids have been reading recently by that thought about how we label things such as weeds. And I think that sometimes mushrooms get labeled as weeds, but they are just like really beautiful fungi. So here I've concentrated on a color combination of these reds and blues, which I really love the contrast and how they kind of blend in together to make this beautiful kind of muted purple. So here now I'm starting on the girl. I want her to have some like loose hair that kind of flows, very dreamy. So she's enjoying a cup of tea here, and I can see her like feeling really relaxed on the outside, but at the same time like just spiraling on the inside. I don't know how many of you go through that. Sometimes like you're really still with yourself, you're zoning out, or maybe like people would think you're zoning out, but you're actually like in deep thought about all of the things that are happening around you and trying to like regulate and organize that. And it's simply really enjoyable if you could simply have a cup of tea to enjoy that process with while you're kind of managing to put your life together or like organize your thoughts. So here I'm adding in like more colors. You can see that the red for the mushroom, for gouache specifically, you'll know that's when it's wet it looks a lot more bright and vibrant, and when it dries it looks a little bit more lightened. So that's a component of gouache, a characteristic that you should be aware of, that the color is not necessarily true to whatever you put on. Darks tend to dry a little bit lighter and light tend to dry a little bit darker. Here adding in some more fine lines to really add definition to this girl who's kind of growing out the mushroom. Initially, I thought that it would look a lot better if the mushroom was a little bit more plump. Now that I think about it, I'm still not sure if I made the right decision. Here I'm adding in some ombre brown to create more dimension and 3D-ness to the mushroom itself, so it doesn't look as flat. I'm using my soy sauce dish that I just picked up at my local dollar store. I know you probably can pick it up at your own grocery store as well to do paint mixing. Because each of my sitting for my artwork are usually quite short, I don't spend that much time on my art piece, because usually I just grab, like, it would take a little bit of time here and there when my kids are napping or like taking a break, so it's not extended amount of time. So I usually use a smaller dish because I won't use that much paint anyways, and it's very therapeutic. It's like a nice break. I find myself to be a better person because I've given myself that break. I think my family may notice that as well. Especially on the weekend, if I have a little break to paint myself, I come back together with the family as a much nicer person. I don't know if anybody else noticed that too. Sometimes it's good to give a person a break or give yourself a break. And also at the same time for artwork, it's nice to give yourself a break from the artwork rather than just staring at the same piece for like an hour or more. Sometimes it's nice to give yourself a break, go take a walk outside, and then like come back to the piece, and you'll come back with a renewed perspective and renewed interest of how to approach a piece, especially if you're maybe gotten to a stage where you're like, I'm not really in love with it, I'm not sure if I should continue. Go take a walk, go talk to a friend, go grab a cup of tea, and then come back to it, and things can be just so completely different, and you might just have a whole new way of perspective of how to approach this art piece that you may be struggling with. So that's a piece of advice I did not intend to share with you guys on this video, but I hope you find it helpful. I will also love to hear in comments below if there's any specific topics you'd like to go over for me to talk about in future YouTube videos. Because I know I've been sharing a lot about my process of how I paint, and also my thought process, and a little bit about like perspective too. And I don't know if a lot of it is unsolicited advice, but I would love to hear from you if you're enjoying the content so far, or any suggestions on how I can improve the YouTube channel for the future. Thank you so much for considering. And here you can see I am just adding a little bit more darker lines, less mixture with water in proportion to water for the gouache, so the lines will stand out a little bit more, create more definition for the piece. I'm still not absolutely in love with the piece. I wanted it to be a little bit more of a reflection of the spiral that happens within us, like the uncertainty despite the calmness that we may sometimes appear on the outside. Here I don't think I've accentuated the cup of tea that she's holding very strongly, so it might be hard to tell, but I've added in some more lighter blues and also some like pastel pinks. At the end I decided to do these like spirals around the girl to kind of reflect maybe the inner turmoil that are within us and we're trying to control and balance that's always surrounding us. It's actually quite therapeutic adding in these like looped lines. Maybe it's the repetitiveness of it, but like I know these lines don't have to be exactly parallel or like exactly in the right curve, and I really enjoy that as well. And then here is the finished piece. Now excuse me, you're gonna find my children's hands kind of playing around the piece. That is the life of a mom. It's really hard to get good clips of my artwork, and you'll find them making cameos in various videos coming up, whether it is wanted or not. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me on this art time lapse, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Take care and stay creative, everyone. Bye for now.